Alrighty, good morning everyone. It's a nice early 4 a.m. in Sydney here. Very comfortable time for me. Not so much really. Maybe a little bit more comfortable for Yasser. Very blessed to have him here again today. It's about 8 p.m. where Yasser is, so a little bit easier for him. But the matches are happening when they're happening, and we've got to cover them. Today we've
Yes.
got 12-teen again, one of the favourites in the candidates, up against Sexy and I Know It. It could be Sexy and I Know It's first match in the candidates. So we've got 10 games of Crazyhouse. The time limit is 3 plus 2. There are 11 players in the candidates, and they're basically playing for a chance to compete in the World Championship final. So here we are. Yasser, welcome.
We are. Thank you, Justin. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us and sharing your, in my case, evening, and Justin's case, very early morning. Big match today, Justin.
Yeah, no, they're all big matches in my opinion. Every player is dangerous in the
Right.
candidates, but a little bit of history or background, I suppose, into what's happened so far. I mean, Opperwesen is the man to catch at the moment. I believe he's on 4 out of 4 wins, and one
Yeah.
of those wins was actually against 12-teen, 6 games to 4. So
Wow.
that's been a little bit of a surprise. And look here, we've got Sexy and I Know It going straight for this knight f5 line, and I know that Opperwesen played this as black against 12-teen. So this is actually 12-teen taking the black side of the pieces. But I remember when we were commentating this
Hmm.
one, I felt it was better for white.
Right.
So G takes f6, Queen takes f6, Bishop at g5, something like
Right.
that continued, and then
It looks very good for white.
yeah, but 12-teen was playing the white pieces last time, so this is interesting.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, Uh, knight takes f6 looks just death after knight g7. So
Yeah,
queen
so
f6, bishop at g5, and where will the queen go?
so I think what happened was something like knight takes c4, but there may be
Ah,
some kind of
I understand. Queen,
the
no, queen
that's a
takes.
different line. That's a different line.
Okay,
I think we're
and here,
looking.
yeah, sorry.
No, it's right.
Wait.
You have a go.
Yeah, no, no, no. I was just thinking queen takes f5, e takes f5, knight f3 check.
Yep.
There's a mate on d8. So, you know, I I'm not sure. King e2, knight takes g1. I can't keep grabbing all my material, as much material as I'd like because of the mate. I have to respect d8.
Yeah, so I'm looking here at knight takes g1, queen takes g1, pawn at f3. Now if the king goes to
Right.
d2 or e3, you get to pick up c4 with check.
Right.
But
It will go
king
to d1.
d1 goes into pawn at e2, so I actually think e1 is the square for the king out of the four
E1
options that the king now has. Um,
makes sense. Looks very logical.
because
And if you
rook at f1 is covered by bishop on c4.
Yeah, if you go king e1, I'll go pawn in hand to f6 with the threat of rook
Correct.
h1.
So I wonder if this is actually a theoretical trap.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's a theoretical line. Okay, I take on f7, and you take with the
With the
knight, I
knight.
suppose.
Yeah, I don't
And I
think
put
that
a,
helps white.
well, I put a pawn on g6.
Okay, but then rook at f1 is getting pretty direct as well.
Oh, sorry. The rook on f1. No, that's a killer shot.
But well, you could be right though. Okay, but look, Sexy and I know it's gone for the shot on G7, which is quite
Right.
reasonable. So if rook at H1 here, knight takes G7 check. Let's say king
Exactly.
F8, but queen at E8, king takes G7, pawn at H6 is mating after knight takes H6, bishop takes H6. So after rook at
Correct.
H1, knight takes G7, you must run up to E7.
Here, I'm not happy about it, but I'm thinking about rook e7, knight g7 check, king d. Oh, you've got queen f8.
No, queen
Sorry.
at F8 would finish you. I think you may have to
Yes.
bite the bullet. You may have to play rook at H1 here. No, he's taken the bishop. Okay.
This is just. Oh.
But he knew he had to run up to D6.
Yeah.
Taking the bishop was not bad though, because that just removes one more piece. This is very sharp, and it's all
Yeah.
feeling theoretical. But if black can get out of the checks, then white's in some trouble.
Yeah. No, rook f1 is a winning. Is winning. But now, how does white continue?
Yeah, it all hangs in the balance here.
Okay, queen e8 check, king d6, bishop f4 check,
Bishop at E5,
bishop
or
to
you can just
e5.
move to C6. But then queen E4 is.
Queen e4 is a check,
I
but then
mean,
you have pawn to d5, or bishop to d5.
I think D5 looks
Yeah.
good. Okay, queen at C5. He's
Ooh.
chosen that. So white can choose to take C4 and defend F1.
Okay, but bishop d6 takes c4, rook h1. Ah, you have queen e4 check.
All right, so we've got Opperwezen in the
Nice.
channel. Knight D6 is nice. Opperwezen's in the channel. He says this line is refuted. I bluffed by playing this, but so many lines are plus minus. So it sounds like he studied this a little bit more than we have. But he's saying knight takes c4, g takes h3, g6, h6, knight takes h6, bishop g5 is the refutation. So I believe, right, I think he's suggesting you don't allow h takes g2. It sounds like. Anyway, let's not worry about that for now. This is a game now. So knight d2 covering f1, but rook at h1. No, bishop. Ooh, he's saying how do you stop rook at d1?
Queen e3 check, rook. Queen e3 check. King has to go back
We'll
to
go f8, king f8. So knight
king
takes
f8.
f3. Only real move there.
Bishop takes f3. Oh, he has rook h1. Ooh. Whoa.
Queen e5. But king f8.
Wow.
This looks knight e6, bishop h6. What, is it knight e6 he's thinking? I don't see it. I think 12-teen's gotten out of this one.
Yeah. This is over.
This is over. Rook on g1 has to block, recapture, rook at h1 mates. Wow.
Yes.
Wow, what a game to begin with. So
you got to check your theoretical knowledge in these matches,
I
huh?
felt like when we were commentating that Opperwezen was playing into this with black, but it might have been bluffing, which is confirmed.
A good bluff.
But complex is the game such that you can make a bluff like that, and even someone like 12-teen is not going to know it. So I don't think 12-teen has necessarily studied that line. He might have just figured that Opperwezen played it as black against him and did all right. So
must be good. Yeah. Nice. Okay. A few things here don't make a lot of sense to me.
okay.
Knight on e2 looks very peculiar to my eyes, but okay. I guess it's a line. And of
Yeah,
course, the knight on e7 needs to find a better square.
yeah. I normally that. I mean, this knight can sometimes come to e2 in different setups where you've got a knight on c3 and the bishop comes to b4, and then there's a purpose
Okay.
in defending
Right.
that. But
Right.
f3 is a normal square. I mean, sometimes you might put the knight on e2 so black can't put a bishop on g4 or h5,
Mm-hmm.
and then f3 is natural. But I don't know if he's going to go knight d2, knight f3.
Knight d2, knight f3. Okay, well, black's pretty clear. He's going to play knight f5.
The best part
Bishop.
about playing black in this setup is you only have one plan.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You don't have genius not required. Okay,
Uh,
a4.
I like
I guess
b4
it's
here, actually.
b4, and he's played it. Okay.
My
Hmm.
point here is I'd rather make white work a bit harder for his pawn, because, I mean, basically that favors white. The dark squares are easier to penetrate if you've got pawns in hand.
Yes.
But I'd rather make
Okay.
white play c3, then at least there's a bit of a hole on c2, which the
Right.
bishop on g6 is already looking at. Whereas
Exactly.
the pawn on a4 is, that would be useful for white if it got captured.
So
a5.
I was about to ask the question, what about a5? And we'll find out. It's going to be asked and answered very shortly. So the point of a5, of course, he wants his bishop to go back to a4.
That's quite reasonable. He's trying to make black look silly with the bishop on g6.
It's this knight on e7. I think if I were black here, I'd consider knight c8, bishop a5, knight a7,
Wow, to
so
put
that I
on
could,
b5.
yeah, so I could block it on b5.
That's a nice idea.
Well, now I was about to say black was about to have a problem. I thought black's problem was knight f4 takes g6 and to put a bishop on b7. He would have
Right.
stopped
He would have
f
stopped it in time. I suppose
with
I
that
like
move.
knight f5 just because that's obviously a very useful square and it only takes one move to complete. So in principle, queen d7 is not the worst way to defend c6.
No, no, that is true.
And the moment a pawn gets traded off the board, pawn at b5, and there's no worries there. So
Yes. Okay, well, here, if I were white, knight f4 and knight takes g6 and maybe bishop d3 starts to get my attention.
right. So I think that knight's jumping into f3. No, he's gone to f4. So,
Hmm. Well, I never liked this knight on e2. You were mentioning lines where if there's a pin on b4 by a bishop, the knight on e2 is useful. But yeah, I'd much rather have the knight on f3 or h3.
well, I think 12-teen's achieved what he wants out of the opening, which is basically no worse than equality, but an unfamiliar
Yeah.
position where he'll have chances to outplay his opponent.
Right,
That's just what he'd be looking for.
exactly.
And I understand his position. I'm just wondering if you'd want to take e3 and play bishop at
Whoa.
h6. Okay, rook
I
e5. Nice.
I like the knight e3 and bishop h6 on the previous moves, as you were suggesting. Rook b5 looks like a little bit of a panic, frankly. I
Yeah, I
mean,
guess he's saying
it's
that rook is not a useful piece. We consider a minor piece equal with a rook in
right.
Crazyhouse, only
Yeah.
because in chess the rook's advantage is in the endgame where it can access 64 squares and a bishop can't. Okay, declining the queen. because the bishop would
Whoa.
recapture on e2. Black's looking all right here.
Black is ooh. I
Do we
like the
need
bishop on
f6?
h6.
f6,
Yeah.
good. Just balances the dark and the light squares, because light squares have plenty of support. And the queen could defend g7 as well. Okay, here's 12-10. Now here's where
In
he'll
his
say,
elbow.
right,
Huh? Let's go
maybe
for it.
objectively Black's got a longer long-term residual edge, but I'm 12-10 and I like attacking, so here I come. And he's going to play
And
for
here
every
he
bit of
goes.
activity, but I don't really feel White
Okay.
has enough. Fe6 is the target here. Okay, that could have been missed.
E6 is the,
It's the time
yeah,
trouble that's
E6.
going to be a problem for Sexy, and I know it. I think that was a miss.
Did he have a good way of defending E6 though, Justin? I didn't see
Maybe
it.
rook e8.
So you're willing to give up the rook there.
Okay, well,
Ooh,
I'd prefer
this
that
has,
relative to this.
yeah, well,
Yeah. See, like
yeah.
just like that, it's that
Jeez.
practical play that 12-team will get in on, and he just sneaked in on e6. But I mean, maybe he had to play pawn at f7. Okay, he's going down this one again.
Okay, he's convinced.
Now I have a feeling Sexy, and I know it, knows that this is good for White.
He just doesn't
He
remember
just
how
doesn't
to...
remember the line or something.
Exactly.
Okay, so he
Oh,
switched up with rook takes g2 here.
he did. D5.
d5, looking for bishop takes
Okay.
f5.
That's a real...
Would you take it with the queen here?
Well, I keep coming back to this bishop d5, bishop g5 idea.
Knight g7,
I mean, it looks so...
knight g7 check.
Knight g7 check. I guess I have to play king. Then you want to play knight h5. Well, here I guess he's going to take the knight.
Oh, d7 runs in anything on the d5 runs into queen takes d5. e7 or d8 runs into bishop at g5. King f8. I mean, there's knight h5 or knight e6, pawn at g7.
Yeah, I
And
like the knight h5.
I feel like White's much better this time with the pawn not on g2. It just avoids any theoretical trap.
Yeah, there was so... d5 looked, well, suspicious. But then again, this whole line looks very suspicious for Black to me.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Sexy, and I know it's moved pretty quickly in the opening, and he's like, he's kicking himself from last game even. Like, it's like, well, I left that pawn on g2. I'm going to take it pretty quickly this time, and I'm going to win a line which I should win, it seems.
Exactly. Well, again, if you don't play queen takes g7 in that particular position, it seems that Black's position's rather bankrupt.
Yeah,
But
I think
here, king e2.
King e2, I think, is the one.
And the problem is rook g8 is a big check, because the knight will come back to f6.
I just feel king e2 because, if you ever want to give that rook on g1, you're better prepared with the king on e2 than you are on f1. The bishop can't be taken by d-pawn because of queen at d8 mate.
Exactly.
Bishop g4 is covered by rook takes g4. I think Sexy, and I know it, could burn a little more time than he needs to. King e2 played, yes. The king f1 also not bad. I mean, you've got knight takes h2 check, but king g2 was alright. And bishop h3, pawn at g2, so you just had to choose.
And he couldn't afford rook takes g8 there, so more or less knight f6 is obliged, but boy, with a queen in hand, you think that pawn to e7, for example, may just win.
But, White is just up a queen here, cold.
Exactly.
So, I mean, when I say cold, I mean Black's got a few pieces around the king, but there's no knight d4, knight g1, there's pawn at d3 is not coming soon, there's nothing direct, so, I mean, 12-teen's playing on here for some mistakes. You could go bishop takes d5 possibly, knight takes d5, queen takes d5, bishop at c4 check, take it, knight takes c4 and knight at f6, king d8, pawn at e7, knight d5, queen's coming in on e7, looks pretty bad. And bishop takes d5 would also threaten bishop takes f7, opening up the d file. So
this isn't a bad move either.
no.
I kind of like this because, I mean, the whole problem is it's not like you're super upset about losing the knight. The problem is when the knight is captured, a mate threat looms on e7.
But knight takes e4, queen takes d5 looks very strong for white as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think 12-teen's played pawn at d3. He wants to block off that queen. Knight d4 check.
King f1.
King f1. Bishop h3.
Pawn at
g2. Bishop takes, king takes. Pawn at f3. Not too much to be concerned about because that's the square you want to preserve for your knights. And king g1 would avoid all the checks.
Yeah, and there's no... black has no pieces in hand now.
Yeah, I just feel like white's up too much material.
Right.
This
looks terrible.
Because even bishop g4, and you're right, you've got that mate threat after g takes f6. So, pawn at e2 is nothing to be concerned about.
Right.
So knight g4.
Okay. Knight g4, last gasp. Bishop f6.
Bishop at f6. Is knight takes h2 anything to be respected? King g2, pawn at h3, king takes h2, knight f3.
King g3.
Yeah, pawn at h4. King f4.
Yeah, you just kind of just slalom up the board.
Or we could do what's been played here and just say, well, I just don't want to allow knight takes h2. That's not so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. In that case, I might have been more tempted by bishop on c1 to f4.
Yep, me too.
I like
develop that piece. Why not hold one in hand?
Exactly.
Okay, so 12-teen's conceded he's going to have to defend a bit. So if pawn at f6, he can castle queenside.
Rip that guy off. Oh,
yeah, he's kind of trading a few pieces, giving black an opening chance here.
I think he should have put a knight on f6 with check.
Okay, capturing on f3.
Capturing on d5 was a real luxury there.
I mean, he's probably still okay. Then knight h4, king g3.
Yes, king g3. Good stuff. Now it's very safe.
And bishop b5 check. Oh, he's going this way. Pawn at h4 isn't anything. He can run at f4, e3, e2. Knight takes d5.
Pawn e7 check.
Pawn e7, knight takes d5.
Ooh, queen f8 check, I thought was the move there.
Possibly. He's just saying I'm taking all the pieces.
Yeah. and he meant it too.
Yep.
He sure was.
Okay, so rook takes g2 was the move there that changed the opening line. I don't think 12-teen will revisit that one. I have a feeling.
No. Although, no, there was no bishop e7. That was...
All right, so 12-teen still up a break, so to speak. Even though... Yes, so Sexy I know won with white just then. So... This is this move order I was telling you about, like this bishop e7. Black just hangs passive in the opening to avoid some theoretical traps.
Exactly.
So knight f6 normal. Oh, okay, this is a new one. Knight a5.
That looks suspicious to me.
I see the point in this. I mean, this is where.
Here, how does Black answer bishop d5, Justin?
Bishop d5. I'm feeling like c6.
Right, I'll take on f7, and then I'll put a pawn on b4.
Right. So the queen's
With
defending
your
a5, so I just develop with knight f6, and I'd have to part with the knight on a5. But I regain a pawn.
right, but boy, that would mean I'd have a knight in hand, and this knight is already on f3. So
Correct. But
okay,
so I need
well,
I need the knight on f6, so the king can go back to g8 to cover knight at f7.
right.
So it doesn't look ideal for black, but it's like, well, I have to play the hand I'm dealt, and knight f6 is the best of a bad situation.
Right.
So okay,
Okay.
I mean, TwelveTeen didn't even do that, so the knight's recovered back to c7, c6.
I'm expecting knight d5.
Yeah, possibly.
Well,
Okay.
I mean,
What else?
it's sort of like yeah, exactly. He's on a treadmill. He can't get off. He's got to keep going, you know.
There's a
He's
funny
already
story
started.
when you say that. It's reminded me, my good friend Mugwort, who you might know and have heard of, Crazyhouse player. Speaking of, you're on a treadmill and you can't get off. He once told me he was on an old treadmill. This is where he used to live, and really going hard at it. And the power went out on this old dodgy treadmill. He just ran straight into the support frame that was in front of it. Just really hurt.
I am sure it. Oh,
Poor guy.
oh.
He'll hear it later. He'll recall that story. But
I got this image already.
yeah, I don't think he was laughing at the time, but he's probably
No.
come to laugh at it by now.
Yuck, 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 yuck. Okay. I mean, I think 12-teen's committed. F5, F6. Let's go.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I thought that maybe this one, defend g5, because
Well,
that's
the
your
problem
F.
I have with this, Justin, is he takes on F3. He gives me a check on G2.
Correct.
He
King
takes on
d2,
E3.
and take on
He takes
e3.
on, yeah, and then takes on G5, and I've lost a pawn, and my king's floating about, and
you
there's
just-
Queen G2.
There's no time for rook takes h5. So I think bishop takes f3 was good there, but now g6 is an option. I like bishop takes f3 before.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I'm doggedly determined here. I would probably play f6 again.
f6 still. Okay.
Yeah.
You like the dark squares.
Yeah. Well, in this
Well,
case,
g6 bishop takes d5 I think is the issue, because then black's undermining that pawn chain. So you're saying f6, gf,
yes.
knight takes f6. You're gonna play pawn at
Okay.
e7.
I was just looking at bishop h6 check as well, but yeah,
Right.
pawn on e7 looks pretty good.
And then I got to decide if I'm going to play knight takes or queen
Well,
takes even.
Queen takes will run into bishop h6 check. Yeah. Okay, but some
C4
slippery slippery ideas there. Okay. Wow. King d2.
Yeah, that's quite a safe square for the king.
Yeah, but my faith in White's position really just went down after that, I must say. Oh, this way.
This is
Oh,
good.
gosh.
This is good.
I was
No.
expecting bishop takes f5, but okay.
No,
But you did it.
Black's done a good job. G4 and F5, lots of defense on E6, because knight at E6 is
Yes.
the big move.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah.
Sexy, and I know it's defending nicely here.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
trading off the knight on D5, and
Mhm.
because that's how black just has to treat this one. Keep a slight edge on material, even if you're a pawn up, and just keep defending.
By the way, edge on the clock now.
Yes,
Starting to get a little serious.
and I think that's very telling in these matches. Um, the
Ooh, what is that?
he can take that and rinse and repeat with another bishop on g4. I
Absolutely.
think that's running low on time.
Yeah, that's just yeah.
And
Um,
g6 is also just fine. Doesn't need to
yeah.
get distracted on d3, but I think pawn at f4, trapping the bishop. Okay,
Ooh.
he's been a bit overly defensive here. I think pawn at f4, start undermining g5.
Well, this is nice now. Also, black can take on e4 and play c6, opening up for queen a5 check.
Uh, okay. I just like pawn at f4. The way I approach defense in these positions is
Mhm.
you've got to try to undermine the pieces closest to your king or pawns even, and you just work your way up the board. If you start trading too fast without doing that, then you leave opportunities for your opponent. So here it is, pawn at f4. But I don't feel like bishop at a5 achieved anything. I would have preferred that bishop go on
No,
h5 because then I can
uh,
keep undermining g5.
it's worked out well for him, Justin, because he can now take on d2
What?
and
But he just
what?
missed. Time
Oh,
trouble. So he's going for g5 here. He's going for g5.
I think he
But
just
I don't like how he went about it because now white's got the
no,
material. Now knight
not
at
at all.
d7 is a problem.
Absolutely. Ooh, ooh.
He knows he's in trouble. He's gonna have to. Oh, okay. He's found a square for the king temporarily, but
It's not a
now he's out
not
of
a.
time. That
Ooh. I thought 12 was the one under the clock there.
Yeah, I mean that's where he might just see it a little bit better than his opponent. But bishop at a5 was where he went astray, and then he just left the bishop hanging there.
Well, that
Um,
was where he went astray. He could have taken on d2 and then continued with your idea,
Correct.
which was put the bishop on h5, and life is actually pretty good for black.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
even against bishop at g6, I thought it was bishop at g4 hitting the rook,
Yes.
because then you still hit the knight
Yes.
on f3, and then you play with pawn at f4. Like my plan was everything against g5. Um,
Well, it was funny there. It was like Sexy and I Know It had a really nice position. He had basically built up an initiative, and then he went into a defensive
yeah,
crouch. First of all, bishop g6 was step one, and then pawn in hand to f7 was like step two. It was like
yeah. I
you,
mean,
you, you, instead of chasing white's king, he just kind of said, "Let me repair myself." It's like, dude, you should be attacking.
but such is the effect of TwelveTeen on a lot of us
Uh-huh.
that we've been burnt too many times by attacks that came out of nowhere. And
I see.
there's a bit of pressure playing there. I think here knight takes e4, knight g5. I don't like 12-teen's
Yes.
bishop on d7, but knight takes e5 could work.
If knight e4, de4, knight g5, knight
A knight takes e5
d4,
here. There's something
knight
sharp.
takes e5. I don't think I like that after takes on.
Take
Well,
d7,
maybe. Yeah, take
and then just
d7.
recapture an e4, or are you going to go berserk, like you
No,
said?
I think berserk is in order.
Alright.
He took on d4, by the way, which was my
Okay.
and that was my initial move.
I think here
Yes. Don't forget, there's going to be a
queen
knight
takes
each
d4, bishop takes b5, queen takes b4,
bishop f1,
bishop f1.
threatening knight e2 and mate on g1.
Alright, so there's knight
Mhm.
at f6
Take it.
is he's got d7 to move to.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking
Okay.
bishop takes b5, queen
Yep.
takes b4, bishop takes f1. If you go knight in hand to f6, I'll take it with my queen.
I think we're going to see queen takes b4.
Yeah.
Bishop takes
Okay.
f1 looks natural,
Bishop takes f1. Yeah.
and then I think So there's no
And
mate.
then,
There's no mate threat here.
and then
Um,
time to think.
is there
Bishop G2 feels like a mate threat. Bishop G2 and Queen G5.
Queen G5?
Okay, well,
Sorry,
first
do
of
you mean
all,
Rook at H1, King takes? Oh, you mean a force mate, or just Bishop takes
well,
G2? Because I'm
no,
looking at White here making like a really impactful move. Uh,
which, such as? I don't see.
I mean, like, as in, White's next move needs to threaten mate or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, no. Absolutely.
Okay, well there you have it. So
Uh,
that's a pretty big threat. Covers E2. That's the key. That's actually a defensive move there, because pawn at G6
uh-huh.
is
So
taking care
knight
of
E
that.
so knight E2 check, bishop E2 is
No.
forced, right?
If knight at E2 check, then king takes F1. Oh no, rook at
No,
G1.
then
There's
I go
queen
queen,
D1. Yeah.
queen,
Sorry.
queen, queen D1. Yeah.
No.
So
So
knight
so
E2, knight E2 would have rescued the bishop on F1 and threatened mate.
correct. So there actually was a mate threat there. Knight at E2. Unless the king could have run to E3 and not been mated, but you don't really want to take that kind of risk. So bishop at G6. He's used the bishop, not the pawn,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's to continue the attack. So, wow, knight takes F7 here. So looking to pick off the
Okay,
queen, but this is
take
bishop
on
takes H5. Now
H5.
knight at E2 is still a mate threat. This is bad for
Exactly.
white. Um,
Terrible.
no, if you
Terrible.
if you're getting into the tactics
Rook,
with 12-teen, you got to get them right.
rook D, rook D1.
I think not queen D1.
Oh, sorry.
But
Uh,
this is good too. I mean, he's just won all the
yeah,
pieces.
exactly.
Rook at D1 still, that means E7's covered at the back.
Exactly.
He's looking for a kill shot here, something like
Yeah,
bishop takes G2.
exactly. Rook H1 check, is that a uh-huh. He's got his ideas. He's threatening knight H3.
Yeah, knight at H3 is a mate threat. Knight takes H3, rook at H1 check, king takes H1, bishop F1 takes G2.
Yep.
It may still work even after this.
Well, I'm thinking rook D1.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
thinking
just
bishop F1 takes G2.
Yeah, so many mating patterns now. Just
Yeah, the back rank
look.
is really...
Yeah.
There you go. He agrees with you, not me.
He has good taste, Justin.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay, there should be a
Yeah,
forced mate.
bishop takes F3 is solid enough.
Yeah,
Yeah, knight at H3, knight at E2. That's it.
yeah. Simple. And pawn to G2 mate.
No,
Wow,
there's
12-teen just
4
took
to
a
1.
massive 4-1 lead. Wow. That was big.
Yeah, I felt like it was game 4. Sexy and I know it had some good chances there where he was defending well. And
Yeah. And then he mixed up some very overly defensive moves.
correct.
In
And that's the
position.
thing. If you're too passive when you shouldn't be, someone like 12-teen or like an Oppo Wesen will take advantage of that.
And just climb right back into the game, yeah.
You've got to defend when you got to defend, and you've got to attack when you got to attack. And that's one of the
Wise
hardest
words.
things. It's one of the hardest things.
And that's why Justin gets paid the big bucks. With advice like that, Wilhelm Steinitz himself would approve.
This is where I actually feel it's those positions where I feel like I'm enjoying the game most, where there's that ambiguity, and there's, even for the top players, the finest line between I don't know if I should be attacking or defending here.
Right.
And getting that balance right, I think, is what separates the great from the good, potentially.
In that last move before Rook C1,
Yep.
I'm a really big fan of including H2, H3 for white.
Yes.
Just to, if my opponent is so kind as to retreat, I think that that's very useful, having a pawn on h3 just to stop, infestation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's nearly cheekily just holding it back, because that's normally automatic h2, h3,
Exactly.
and it's nearly like he's saying, well, the bishop can
Okay.
take it and play pawn at g4, but
That's what I want.
knight h5 becomes more useful after h3, so maybe he's also preparing with rook c1, so that knight
Of course.
h5 didn't slip in instead of knight d7, for example.
Hmm.
He wants that bishop to hit c7.
Yeah.
So here, if like knight h5, you might even sack on c7 and then play cd.
Mm.
Whereas if you had not prepared rook c1 and played h3 earlier, I don't know. I think it's a trivial point.
I thought Black's intent was to capture on c4 in that last turn. If you capture with the rook, reinforcing the threat to c7, then you have knight d5, and okay, it's just a game. But if you recapture with the knight, I was just saying that I don't see the utility of rook on c8.
Right. I think he feels like he had to defend c7.
Yeah.
I'm finding Sexy and I know it's playing very conservatively here, and just basically saying this is 12-10 and I'm going to defend.
Okay, but b6 is not a good defensive move.
You want to put a knight on c6, don't you? That's what's screaming out.
Well, as Victor Pupils, a local master from the Pacific Northwest, would say, every fiber of my being screams,
yeah,
put a knight on c6.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think 12-10's any different there.
No.
What are you going to play here? Takes DE. Okay, the knight got to h5.
It's really getting rough now. The good news, I guess, for Black is if I take on d5 and knight f4, queen f4, you do have bishop g5. Even if it's just a kind of a temporary respite, I probably sack my queen and still like White's position very much.
So, where are you sacking a queen? With what?
Sorry, I thought White's last turn, instead of putting a knight on c6, was to play c4, takes d5.
Yes.
Knight takes f4.
Yes. And queen takes f4. Oh, okay. And I was only considering g takes f4. Okay, I see. Right. Yeah, 12-10's happy here.
He's happy, but it's still not lights out.
No, but it's his kind of position. I mean, his king's safe, and he's got fluidity on the board, and even if he doesn't have something here, he's got a position where he can make things happen.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was going to say, if you take there, I was going to take with the rook, perhaps, and play rook takes h6.
I think we're just looking for d5 here. But you could be right. Knight at d4. Okay, good move.
Very good move.
It's making rook take c6 look better than this, because queen was still covering d4.
Yeah, it did, actually, didn't it?
He's just going to ignore c6, and so is Sexy and I Know It, because he's looking at g7 pretty hard here.
Ooh.
Okay. That's not going to amount to anything. That's the problem. King h1, right. Rook takes c1. It would be knight takes c1. Yeah, that could be something. King h1, knight takes c1, rook at h2, king g1, knight at e2 is mate. So maybe that has to be respected and captured.
So I take ones for sure. FG, HG, king h1, take on c1.
Take on c1.
I can take on f8 and take on g3. with the knight.
All right, you're going to defend. Yeah, I think 12-teen wants more than that. I suspect he's looking at king h1, knight takes c1, bishop at g1.
Wow. Okay, let's see if you know your man. Big moment. Will he take on g3 or
bishop at g1? Well, he might take first, but I feel like it's knight at f3 or bishop at g1.
Ooh, that was a good...
queen takes h6.
Oh.
I think
queen
hg was in order. Queen takes h6.
Yeah,
he's just checking the lines. No. This is going downhill. If there's mate to be found, he'll find it. Rook takes, pawn at g7, knight at f6.
Correct.
No, he needed hg. It wasn't knight e2. It's just that sharp.
Yeah. And
I
that's
think
5-1.
hg, bishop at g1 was the...
That means 12-teen has at least secured a draw, yeah? In the match.
Correct.
Sexy, and I know it needs to go on a run.
But yeah, I mean, you're looking for every point you can get from here still.
A6. What a rubbish move is that?
I don't know. That's been quite popular recently.
This is theory?
I don't know if it's theory, but knight c6, bishop b5 is not as fun. And here knight c6, and black looks like he's consumed some time. Could be pawn at f6 even, but black's just solid and slow, and avoiding, because there's some issues when a bishop's on b5 and a knight's on e5, and then a knight gets traded on c6, and knight takes f7. There's some things where if the trades come too quick, it's not pleasant. So that's all black's doing.
This was very strange. Knight e5, losing f6, knight back to f3, losing 2 tempi.
Yep.
To induce your opponent to put a pawn on f6, which is a very good defender.
Correct. And here's where I feel. I think Sexy and I know it's just playing a strategy. Say, I don't want to get attacked by this guy. I'm going to make him put his pawn on a defensive spot, which is not bad. And White's saying, I've got a pawn in hand and you don't.
Yeah, well, Sexy and I know it's going to find that he's going to be under attack after h4 anyway. h4, and after h3, I thought he was going to play bishop d6, but okay, knight h6. What do you say about that, Justin?
I'm guessing it's he didn't want to bring it through e7 because of rook e1. So rook e1 still allows bishop e7, and the knight can swing into f5 from there. So knight f5 looks natural here.
Would you have captured the knight on h6?
Probably not. I mean, rook h6 to g6 is looking like fun as well. I mean, knight h4 is probably not great, but
I would have snapped that knight off in a heartbeat with bishop h6, rook h6, knight c3, and saying, "Look, I'm developing, and you know, your king's probably not going queenside. I don't think it is, and it's certainly not going kingside after bishop h6, rook h6. I mean, you're not castling.
Yeah, that knight's a gem on f5. I think you're justified in taking that.
Yeah. It's looking very annoying to me. And especially now that he's put his rook on e1, because if you play a move like h3, and the guy, just for argument's sake, plays knight takes d4, and then puts a pawn on g3, there are issues. Ooh, he's played
pawn at g4. So it could be knight h6. Yep, g4 is under fire.
Oh, okay, now he can go g5.
Yeah, and that's the pawn in hand that he's trying to make use of. I mean, that's the strategy.
It's funny, after knight g4, I was going to say, if you take on f6 and he takes on f6, it's sort of like the pawn in hand. White forced black to put a pawn on f6, right? It became so.
Just to capture it.
Yeah.
There we have it. There we have it. Like you've said.
Yeah.
But
okay.
knight g5.
Still looking very good for white here. b5.
Yeah.
That's the other side of the board. Didn't think that was appropriate.
Okay.
b5.
TwelveTeen just saying, well, I
If
like
you're not
the look of
gonna
that, but I think white should just take it. I don't know that black has enough here.
Take twice. Yeah.
Take twice. Pawn f2, knight g4. Okay, so there's rook h1 coming in after that.
Right. Time's a huge factor. 12.
I actually feel maybe it's knight e5 here. Yeah, knight e5.
That looks suicide to me. What is knight e5?
Well, you're just not letting the rook get open on h4.
Why did he take on f2?
Oh, he just king takes f2. And then knight g4 is covered by knight e5.
What? Well, I mean, I'm sitting here saying I don't see this as a big threat against c6, right? I mean, I have a multitude of ways of defending it, but taking on f2, force king f2.
Sure, but I think white was maybe okay with that. I mean, knight e5 is to get pawn at g6 in, but here, queen takes e5, yes. He's missed that because there's a mate threat, pawn at g2, king takes h2, knight at g4.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
That's
12-teen's just running tactical circles around his opponent this morning.
Yeah.
Knight at g4 mates with pawn at h2 to follow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow. Very impressive.
6-1. So 12-teen takes it already.
Yeah.
We've seen a number of 4-alls already, but this one, 12-teen's just showing his class.
Yeah. That was very impressive.
I mean, this is why he's considered one of the favorites. I mean, there's a slight gap open to take a tactical finish, and he's there, just straight away.
Right. Wow. That was. But I mean, even though the matches are what okay.
The disappointment on your face is classic.
What?
This is classic opening setup against bishop b7.
F3 in a Crazyhouse game.
Yep.
I think you should lose your title if you play F3 in the first 6 moves. To taking away your title.
Yeah, I think this has been played for a long time, this kind of system, and it's basically white's setting up everything against that diagonal on the light squares. It probably wasn't necessary in that circumstance, because I prefer to push the pawn to f4 if I've got enough defense on e4 and look for f5.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of sins committed in this game that people get away with.
Yes.
And I've done this many times myself, f3, and I've played it as black as well. And it's nearly like a prophylaxis move, just because it's a familiar setup.
You may not be forgiven, you said. So I think d5 here is a splat.
Yeah.
It's a splat.
e5 is
I thought d5 was really, really strong. Really strong. You're out of here.
Yeah, because that knight on a6 is a target. It's set up.
Everything looked brutal there for black. But e5 also has a lot of punch.
e5 has its merits as well. I mean, knight coming to e4 at some stage, it's definitely right. But I think I prefer d5 there.
Yes.
12-teen's going to look for the active trades, because that's his style. But knight e4,
Knight e4, bishop h2, king h2, queen h4. It's not that I'm sacrificing a piece for attack. I just somehow I need, a breath. But the problem is my queen on h4 will fall to victim to bishop g5 and stuff. Ooh, this
Bishop
looks
b8.
silly. H6, you'll take it, I guess. Is TwelveTeen trying to help his opponent activate his queen side? Like what?
I guess
What
there's
is that?
the tactics are CB, bishop takes b5, knight c7, bishop takes d7.
Knight d6 check also on tap. Yeah.
Well, if queen takes, then knight at f6. Yeah.
No, I'm saying takes on b5, bishop takes
right.
b5, knight c7, knight d6.
Yes, and knight
check.
takes b7. Yeah.
Ooh. But okay, well, what's his idea after takes c6? He's going to take on a6 and knight d6 check.
Yeah, and then pawn at h6.
That looks brutal.
I mean, you can justify pawn at b5 by saying, look, white's got decent development here to do something. Light squares are weak there. There's a bishop on a4 that's not going to be doing anything if you let black castle.
Exactly.
So he's basically preparing in advance for black to castle.
Ooh, and again,
Here you go. Bishop takes d7 is a win. I mean, you'd have to play bishop takes e4, f takes, queen takes d7. Pawn at c6 is probably stronger, actually. Doesn't allow bishop takes e4.
Right. Yeah. I thought so.
I preferred pawn at c6, but he's not even. I think he's just demoralized here. Poor Sexy, and I know it. Because he was very strong in the opening games, and his soul just kind of got crushed here.
I say you are executing his soul.
That's dear. I feel for him.
Ooh, he could have captured on a8, and then if you capture on g2, you know what I mean.
Yep.
You got this lovely queen to recapture on g2.
King h1.
Well, this is nothing. No attack. What?
Pawn at h2, king h1.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's not over yet. There's, white's just got to be careful.
Right.
I was preferring king
again,
h1.
this knight on e2. Again, this knight on e2. Thinking to myself, what a stupid knight. Why do I have my knight on e2?
But it's covering g3, you got to admit.
I admit that.
I think the issue with king h1 was queen takes h3, knight at f2. And that was giving black some options.
Exactly.
Well, I think you should take a8 here.
Yeah, I would do that. Take a8. And if rook a8, rook f7.
Yeah, I just come in on the back rank. I just play pawn to b7.
Yeah. Oh, you do it that way even. Ooh.
Like rook takes a8, pawn at b7, and rook at c8. I guess the rook would come back to d8 where it's defended by the queen on h4.
Yeah, you're a mean person. I was thinking of rook Edgar 8. You would be forced to trade rooks, and I would take on e8 with the bishop. And I was trying to set up mating attack against f7.
Yeah, but there's no knight g5 check that's... I think white still has to navigate carefully here. It can come undone. Because if white doesn't have a direct attack on the king, if you back off defensively, there could be queen takes h3. If you allow the rook to be captured...
Rook f7 here?
Ooh, then king takes f7. Yeah, that's a good move. That's a good move. Black has to play for these practical opportunities. Oh, look, 12-teen's low on time. Could Sexy 99 pull it off here?
Rook c8. Ooh. Yeah, that's like a good move.
Very sharp. I mean, yeah, you can play Queen G2. You got to go. Can't just let your clock run out.
Oh,
No, that's mated. That's just mated.
Yeah. He had to take on
Queen takes G2, I think. But then the checks probably run out. I think bishop at G3 was a good move to cover F2. Oh dear. 7-1.
Wow. I'm sorry you woke up so early in the morning, Justin.
No, it's all good. I mean, look.
This is my line, G4.
Pawn at G4.
Oh, we did play G4.
Yeah.
Remember, I think we played it a couple times. Pawn to G4. You went knight to G5.
And then you take all my pawns. Yeah, you take all my pawns. Yeah. And somehow I won more games than I lost out of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's objectively better for black.
But Justin, the point there was that I died with a full tummy. What is pawn to G7? That I don't understand. Pawn G7. The black rook was moved to G8 to keep the G file open, and my head hurts. He had to take on G5. And after bishop B5, bishop E7, maybe I'm losing, I don't know, but I'm feeling like this rook on G8, I feel like an idiot with the rook on G8.
Yeah, I would have maybe considered pawn at E7, not pawn at G7, but then you're blocking a bishop or a rook either way.
Yeah. Well, now I think that white is just getting ready for rook E1 and, I don't know, bishop D3. And black's king side looks like a jumble of a mishmash of bad ideas.
No, I think Sexy and I Know It will be happy with his opening because it's what he's looking for.
Right.
Which will be, I don't look like I'm getting attacked anytime soon, and I've got time to make some strategic play. So CD, I think knight takes D4 is right to avoid any pawn at G4 or bishop at G4 ideas.
Yes, very important.
Bit of a liability staying on F3.
Yes. Yeah, it's like that knight on F3 was kind of a magnet for black to attack.
Exactly.
Now that it's gone.
It's what you hit now. So queen takes D4. Queen takes D4 runs into bishop at B5 check. So that's a common theme to take on D4 and you get knight at E2, but it doesn't work here.
Yeah.
So this bishop at C6.
Numerous times.
This prevents bishop at B5, but has a threat on the diagonal to G2.
Yeah.
So
now here I'd probably be tempted to play bishop H3. Just
bishop at H3,
I don't.
But queen takes D4.
Yeah. Pardon me?
Queen takes D4 then.
Yeah. That's fine. You can have that guy. I'm up a piece, right?
Okay, you can look at it that way. I'm here going. I mean, have we switched chairs or something? I'm like, it's a pawn, man.
It's a pawn, but it's like, wait a minute.
I'm up a piece for a pawn, and I don't want to sacrifice my advantage. I've got to acknowledge a donation. WDR has donated $3. Says, just wanted to thank you and Yasser for the amazing coverage. Thanks for the donation, WR. It's WDR. Sorry, I've not acknowledged the Candidates Appreciation Fund at the top right of the screen. I've set a target of $1,111. Basically, if we can meet that target, then $101 can go to each player in the candidates upon completion of their 10 matches. That's what's behind the goal. So please support the candidates if you're enjoying the coverage. I've had several notes from them, and they all really appreciate what's been put in so far. So anyway, back to the game.
Yeah, and again, a shout out. Thank you for donating and helping the players. Here, it's like, well, black is kind of he doesn't have enough attackers. He
Not enough
doesn't have
fuel.
enough wood. Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Not enough fuel for the
He's
fire.
got a little fire. That's what he's got.
But by the way, that bishop going to h3 would have saved a lot of trouble.
Yeah, potentially. But I think, as we saw Sexy and I Know It, he was just fine with taking all the pieces in that game that he won.
Right.
E5 here, I mean, that's like 12-teens saying, I got to be resourceful, I got to move. So E5.
Okay.
Bishop at G3, getting solid around the king. So that bishop on E3 now. The bishop was put on G3, and now bishop on E3 is a bit weak. I would
Not a
have liked...
fan of White's last few moves.
No.
It looks like he's being out.
Knight takes E3, knight takes E3, E takes D4 is making some progress.
Yes.
He's just allowing things.
What White signed up for. Is knight e4 completely ridiculous now? Knight in hand to e4?
No, I think there's no real threat with d takes e3 if you've got something like knight at e4. Ooh, he's okay. The risk of opening that file later on.
Yeah. Okay, so we have bishop h3 check.
But here you can take it because knight at e4 was different. Knight takes f6 had to be respected.
Wow.
Oh,
okay, that was...
this is coming undone.
Whoa. He didn't even take with the knight on g7 there. Wow.
Okay, but 12-teen's having to think about it. If there was mate, he would have found it by now. Okay, king back to g1, pawn f2.
You're sacrificing
could be some bishop h2, queen d1. No, he's just going to get safe.
Castles. Not a bad move. Safety is important. Now, from White's point of view, he's dreaming of a major piece so that he can land something.
But here you've got pawn at f2 is the mate. Queen takes d1. It's game over.
Yep.
So this is more convincing.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
This is horrible. Yeah, it's just mate.
Yeah, but Sexy and I Know It had what he wanted in the opening there. And then,
he just got outplayed in some critical position. But by the way, I mean, 12-teen's clock management has been brilliant. I mean, he's way ahead on the clock.
You've got to take your hat off to 12-teen for how he actually generated a win out of nothing there. I mean, he kind of just had pawns to move up the board, and that's all he could do. And I think, we're hats off to 12-teen as well. Let's not just be critical on what Sexy and I Know It's doing. I mean, 12-teen's making opportunities out of nothing. It's really impressive how he just wins, and this is why psychologically a lot of us are like, all right, I know I'm just winning here, and this looks better, but I'm under time trouble, and I'm up against 12-teen, and then it's that you've got to hold your nerve and trust yourself in a sense.
Yeah. Let me play a quiet defensive move, and it's over like that. F5. I mean, all of this looks visually very, very lovely, of course, but first of all, the attack is not winning by force, and secondly, f4, f5 exposed White's king too. Let's go knight d4 here.
Knight d4, all right, I think.
Knight d4 and
bishop e3, I think.
Bishop Edgar 3?
e3.
Knight. Yeah. So knight d4, bishop e3, knight e2, knight e2, d5.
Break.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's again,
That's very
uh,
natural.
what White's king is a little bit exposed too. It's not just you played f4 f5 and there's a diagonal and I mean we all understand beautiful bishop f7 and g6 ideas, uh, but uh, take on c4 instantly. Don't even think about it. Ah! I think you're giving White an opportunity for bishop f7. Then you put
Right.
a pawn on g6, and then you play b4, and you can win back your piece. So,
Yeah, knight takes
um,
c4. I didn't mind there. This
well,
is a
I would have played.
principle thing as well, where we kind of say, with c6, you can prepare a bit slower, but I think he could have cashed in with knight takes c4. That he's 12-teen's
Yeah,
gone for what you want. I mean,
yeah,
allowing bishop takes f7 then allows white to justify f4 f5 at least
exactly.
there. From he's
And
played
and this is
exactly what you said. So look, I mean, 12-teen doesn't completely disagree with your play.
on everything, not on everything, Justin. Oh boy.
Bishop at
Well,
h5 here, I would consider, or maybe even hg first and then bishop at h5. I need to undermine g6 and then, there's that pin to fortify on e2.
I would agree
I
with
think
that.
hg, fg, bishop at h5 is my choice here.
Yeah, I'd agree with it.
Okay.
Ooh,
The thing is,
there's a
though,
lot.
this allows g takes h7.
Exactly. G takes h7, and if White wants. Oh, he didn't even do it.
I would have
I was
played.
going to say G takes h7. If White
Mm,
wants, he can play h3 pawn in hand or f3 pawn in hand, and it's sort of like.
okay, so material balance just for this second, but if black can consolidate, grab a5.
Yeah, no. Grabbing a5 would be, icing on the cake. Here, I think it's all about
Well,
playing moves
queen
like
takes a5.
d4.
I think queen takes a5. Oh, you want pawn at d4 here? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get some rubbish going on the king side now. I probably play pawn h3 here.
Pawn h3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then takes pawn at g2.
No, after you take on
Oh, knight at
h3, I was going to
f3.
go f3 check. Yeah.
Rook
Okay, I get
takes,
a
bishop
rook.
takes, pawn at g2.
Right, I get a rook and hope hope that it works out.
Uh,
c5, good move.
yeah, I'm not unhappy with black's position here. This is looking just fine.
Yeah.
I felt 12-teen should have played g takes h7. That's all.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we're getting under a
Well,
minute for each player.
here may be time to, well, I'm not a big fan of it, I must say. Bishop f6 and pawn to f5. It sure feels slow for white. Ooh. Okay, he's giving a1 so he can go e7. Either, I think, what do you, what
So,
does white do after bishop takes a1?
well,
I thought he should have just done it right away, actually, because
I
there
think this
was a
is
threat to
okay
play.
because you get f6 defended again while you're picking up a
Well,
piece.
no. The problem was, Justin, is that if he had taken on a1, there was a threat to play rook f1 check.
So then knight at e7, king h7, knight at g5, king
What?
h6. Well, so if you
Oh,
went bishop takes a1 straight away,
I see. Oh, you've got two knights. Two knights.
and I just figured with the time, 60, and I know it said I don't like it,
Uh-huh.
and he just I'm going to
Gotcha.
pick up a rook cold, and I think that's fair reasoning.
That- Hard to argue with the cold part.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, and knight takes
He's going to
f6.
take on.
Yeah, Take on
He's
check on g4, then knight takes f1, and bishop h4 is looking nasty after that.
Ooh.
Okay.
Well, he's coming back to this whole light square infestation idea that he started the game out with f4 and f5. Has he come to it a little too late, though, Justin?
Possibly. I think black's still very good here. Yep, I think
Very
he's justified taking that rook on f1. And bishop h4, pawn at f2.
Well, there's a bishop e1 coming too.
Yeah, bishop at e1 is solid as well. I think 12-teen's out of steam here.
Yeah,
but
I think bishop.
He has won stranger positions than this. You can't ever rule out 12-teen in a time scramble.
Okay, setting
bishop
up for
e1.
The bishop. Oh, he missed bishop e1. Whoa.
That's okay. Bishop takes f6. That's all right.
Yeah, I forgot about the bishop on c3.
All right, come on. You got to attack knight at c3. Yeah, that's the way. Come on. He's got to win a game here.
Rook e1. No, he didn't play rook d1.
Yeah, rook at d1 now. Rook at d1. Come on.
Oh.
Put the rook on c1. Oh, yeah, this is it.
This was good.
This is good. Although he's... if you didn't have a blocker, you'd be a bit more concerned, but that's resignable there. That's resignable.
Okay, he's got 1 second. No, he doesn't.
Okay, so he got a bit of blood at the end. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I felt bad for Sexy and I know it there. Cause
I think he deserved better than an 8-2 score.
He did. I felt there were at least another 2 games. He really had a clear upper hand. And he just... it felt very psychological there. I just got to say it. And having been in this position against 12-teen myself, it was actually the final. We had to play 60 matches last year, and the time control there was 3+0, and it was played in 3 flights, so 3 lots of 20, about over the course of 3 weeks. And we went 10-all in the first leg, and it was in the second leg. I was just like Sexy and I know it. I was just getting blown away. I was actually down 8-2. I was down 8-2. Exactly same timeline. And I know what that feels like. And I just felt... I could feel it myself in Sexy and I know it's shoes there. It's just like you don't know what's happening. you feel you've got these chances, and then he just steals them from you, and you're like... Am I playing bad, or is he playing good? And I can't quite get a grip. And I was very fortunate. I pulled it together, and I actually won 8-2 in the next 10 games, and then it was 10-all for the second series as well.
So you could go into... Could you show that position where there was a pawn... Black had put the rook on g8, and there was a pawn on g5. And I was just thinking that bishop to h3 move was really strong. You were saying you could take the pawn on d4. Do you know how to do it?
Or I was going to try to defend. So let me see if I can get that game up. It was probably the previous game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Let's just have a look. Yeah,
I kind of remember it. It was a French defense, e4, e6.
I'll see if I can get a study up and then invite you to it.
All right, let's see.
Add a member.
Okay.
Mr. Yasser 01. There we go.
Have you just notified? Oh, yes,
I just
invited
did just then. Yep.
Okay,
and contributor.
I'm here.
Can you move the pieces?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
No, I can't.
You can't.
But that's okay. I don't need to move the pieces.
Can you see me move the pieces?
Yes, yeah. I can see you.
We'll try. Have a go now, because I've made you contributor.
Yes, I can.
Okay,
yes,
here we go. All right.
So we get to, and it was just about, yep.
And you thought bishop at h3 here?
Bishop to h3,
I was saying queen takes d4.
And you were going for queen takes d4, right. And let me just see here, because I thought I was going to go queen takes d4, knight e2 check, king, knight takes d4, knight g4.
Knight at g4, okay.
Knight at g4.
I mean, let's just say this is better than what happened in the game.
Yeah, that's the problem. There was so many better than the game, because the game was pretty rough.
Yeah. I don't know if pawn at e2 is any good. You'd probably just play rook g1 here. I'm probably rook helping G1. You.
Yeah, that didn't impress me.
Okay. Let's try to impress you then. Hang on.
Okay.
All right. I could defend with pawn at e7, but
you think that this isn't much of an attack, huh?
Just throwing moves around.
That is a annoying, to be sure. Okay. I'll take twice on f6 with a check.
I'll take f6, okay.
And you got to put your king where? To d8,
yeah.
Right?
So the bishop's defending the mate threats, importantly. Yeah.
I'll play pawn to d5, perhaps? Bishop takes, yeah. Okay, what's the body count at the moment? I don't know what the body count is.
What I'm trying to do here is get your queen to defend on g2 or g3, and then relieve my bishop of his duties.
Gotcha. I see. That's an intriguing idea. Okay. So I take on f3, and you go knight f3,
yep.
Right? And I go, I don't know, queen h3, perhaps?
Queen at h3, okay.
It's kind of weird. It says black is winning. Stockfish thinks black is winning.
Oh, I think black's winning too.
Wow. Okay, that was interesting, because I just thought that I saw some position where I thought my knight were jumping on your king, but
I mean, here so I'm like, yeah. I mean, if you take my rook, what have you got? If you take my knight, my rook gets off g8, and
exactly.
I'm looking at g2.
Yes.
But I don't think that was because of queen takes d4 necessarily. I think knight at g4 doesn't have enough sting in it with knight takes f6 because black's defending d7 and e8. So I was actually more a fan of bishop e3 instead of queen takes d4. I just feel you have a develop a piece.
Get it go.
Because that knight on d4 is another asset to attack with, and I think that's where black just has one extra man hitting. You could grab pawns on b2 if you want, but I don't know if you like that. I mean, at some stage I'm going to grab f6. So, and if you take d1, then the rook gets developed nicely. So I prefer bishop e3 over queen takes d4. That's what I thought you were angling at.
Well, for some strange reason, I thought that after knight g4, with the queen trade, I'm saying, I thought that after knight g4, the knight landing on f6 was landing with a thud. It was more
it is. And I think if white has one extra move, you've got like knight at e5, threatening to take the bishop at check. But that's why I've gone pawn at f3 to try to, quickly make something on your king, or else I don't have much. But this is still a game here. Like queen h4 could be interesting.
H4. Okay. Queen h4. Wow.
And there's ideas like knight at f3 check, g takes, queen takes h5, or queen takes h3 could be something. Because, g takes f6 is also covered by the queen on h4. It's a nice square for the queen. And this is nearly why I was saying, like, well, I've still got a pawn on d4 and I want to hold on to it. But the way things progressed, I mean, what's the alternative against bishop at c6? What was I considering
The
here?
computer is suggesting knight to e5.
Knight at e5.
Yeah,
Wow,
because if you
that's not
take,
one
he's
I'm
got.
considering. But yeah, knight at f6 is there.
That's a nasty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good move.
that's convincing
That's why.
actually,
That's kind of why the computer beats us, isn't it?
isn't it?
It just says once it gets tactical, it just closes off the
it
game so succinctly.
it's monstrous, isn't it? It's
Mm.
really 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 nice. Jan, when's our next stream together?
Let's check the schedule.
Let's check the. We go to the schedule.
All right. Um, where are we? CWC matches. I
Yes.
think it's going to be hard for me to cover what comes next. So let's just have a look. I've got it up on the screen. Now what I'll do via Skype, Yasser, I'll send you the links for this so you can also have a look.
You actually have done that. I put the link somewhere,
Maybe I
which
sent it
means
to you via email, but I'll put it in Skype. And what I'll also do is I'll also take a moment to show the viewers the cross table, which has also been very nicely built and maintained by, I think it's Messy Answer, OKE, and Legion Destroyer, if I'm not mistaken. I'll just double check the credits. Yes, Messy Answer, OKE, and Legion. So I'll send you the link for that one too.
alrighty.
But let's just have a look at the schedule first. Windows going everywhere. Apologies to everyone. Okay, so got Wednesday, 12:10 GSVC at 3 a.m. GMT.
Oh,
That's
that
not
doesn't
good
sound
for
like
you, and
that doesn't sound
it's
like I'm
not good for
sorry,
me either.
folks.
I'm at work at that time. It's midday, so I'm not going to be able to get that one. We have the two Dutch players going against each other on Friday, 7th September. That's 8 to 9 p.m.
On,
Uh,
on which
that
day?
on Friday, 7th September. So
Okay.
that'll be 10 p.m. for you, perhaps? No, sorry, this is London time. London time. Could be 9 p.m. for yourself. 6
Yeah,
a.m. for me. That could
that could be
work.
nice.
Or
Yeah,
5
that could be
a.m.
nice.
maybe. Yeah,
It's such a nice match too. Uh,
yeah.
yes.
You could even, yeah, maybe they should come to your house and play it there.
I'll make a Barbie.
Yeah, make a barbecue. We can watch Upper Wesson vs. Clearcast at Yasser's
I
house.
mean, there you go.
I
Well,
shouldn't. No,
what can you
I
say?
shouldn't invite people to your house. That's not.
No, no,
That's
no,
not the
no.
thing.
I love the company. I'm a good cook, and I want the world to prove it. I want the world to know it. I mean, I
Okay.
was born I was born with a British mother who is universally recognized as the world's worst cook. And the crazy part is all the children, there was three of us, and my older sister, younger brother, turned out to be great cooks. And you know why, Justin?
Well, you got to
It's
fend for
called
yourself.
survival.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's survival, man. You know, like we kept my mom out of the kitchen as long as we could. You know? It was rough. It was rough growing up as a kid. I mean,
All
I'm
right.
not saying that like Rodney Dangerfield. I mean, it really was.
Okay.
Nice.
Well,
Okay, well maybe
that may
Friday.
maybe Friday, unless matches are getting agreed every 24 hours. So sometimes
I see.
it's like you only get 24 hours notice or less. I mean, I
Notice.
only gave you 12 hours notice just after you got off the plane the other day.
Yes.
So if something else pops up, I'll shoot you an email. But I guess
Okay.
let's pencil in
Shoot for Friday.
Friday 8 p.m. London time. I think that's 5 a.m.
I'll put it,
for me here in Sydney. And
I'll put it in calendar. Just a second.
What's the time for you now? Is it 10:30 or 9:30?
It's exactly 9:31.
9:30. So you're 4 hours ahead, then 12 behind, or something like that. Australia's just so far ahead of the rest of the world. It's a problem sometimes. So that's probably 9 p.m. for you, actually. 8 p.m. London time. I think it'll be 5:30, 5 a.m. for me. It's just
all right. Well, I'll put that in my calendar. Whatever the hours are, we'll work it out. Well, it's time to wrap up. Justin, as always, it's a great pleasure to be with you in Kibitz's Games, and I want to shout out to our audience. Thank you for joining us and letting us be a part of your day, and help these players by donating and contributing to the prize pool. Justin's got all the details on how you can do that, and you've got a goal, Justin.
Yeah, it's $1,111 to signify 11 candidates. Fumitox hasn't yet joined the party, but I just haven't given up on him just yet. I think it's in a way very noble what he's tried to do. I think he's basically given up his own position to protest, a change in the rules and someone coming in. I think what it's achieved is that the organizer now sees that he shouldn't change any more rules, time controls or entrance or whatever it may be until next year. And I feel that achievement's been made. So, we all want to see him play. Maybe he's earned his spot. He's earned his spot. Like it's been a hard-earned spot. Look, to be honest, in fact, Opperwesen was at one point considering withdrawing his position to let Jay Killer in. And, we kind of gave Opperwesen a few weeks to come around. So I feel that Fumitox is also entitled to the same gesture. But yeah, I mean, just a minute before we go, I'll put up on the screen, and this is the cross table. So it's the link that I just sent you with docs.google. It's just a beautifully maintained cross table, and I've just posted the link in the channel as well. This shows all the results to date. It's got Opperwesen, you can see, with 4 victories, 6 games to 4 against TwelveTeen, GSVC 8-2, Juan at 7-3, Little Plotkin 8-2. I mean, he's not just won, he's won convincingly.
Against some really good players, too.
Yeah. JK's only played 1 game, 5-all. We're yet to see Blitz Bullet or Master Tan play. And, the sad thing for me is Fumitox isn't on the list here. And I think, he's been quite insistent that he's not going to play, and I think some people have respected that. I respect it too, but I'd like to see his name on the scoreboard. I mean, it's just one less thing that, when your name's not there, it's harder to say, well, it feels like more of a hassle to get back in. And I just feel that the scoreboard should have his name on it as well, and then maybe it's easier to join. So we'll give Fumitox a few more weeks, but Opperwesen played the most matches of anyone, 4 out of 4 currently. So impressive, 100% win rate. And then you've got TwelveTeen, who's won 2 out of 3. And also GSVC has won 2 out of 3. So he downed Clearcast 6-4 and also Little Plotkin 6-4. 6-4 seems to be the most dominant score here. So that just shows you how closely contested these are. There's going to be a lot of clutch moments, particularly when you get to 4-all. I think that's when the pressure is the highest for the players to perform.
We've seen that for sure.
Yeah, we've seen it twice already, have we? 4-all? I think Opperwesen versus TwelveTeen, and also TwelveTeen versus Clearcast. I think we had 2 lots of 4-all already. You and I have witnessed.
Wow.
Possibly. Or was it Little Plotkin and GSVC? Sorry, that was a 4-all, I think.
That went 4-all, yeah.
Little Plotkin was up 4-3, and GSVC came back to win the last 3 and win 6-4.
I'm going to rely on my standard jet lag. Jet lag excuse, like what?
Still taking some time.
Don't confuse me with statistics and facts.
Okay. All right. Well, Hilversum
All
time,
right.
9 p.m. Friday, 7th September. We'll pencil that one in as the next
It's
one.
like that one. Yeah.
That's probably the next stream for me as well. So unless I see a good time pop up before then,
Right.
then I'll get some time to actually just focus on my full-time job from 9 to 5 during the week. That would be all right. Okay.
All right.
Thanks so much for joining again, Yasser. We really appreciate it all here. The community speaks very highly of you.
Always a pleasure, Justin. Always a pleasure.
Fantastic.
My pleasure.
Have a good night of sleep,
Okay.
and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
All right. To the viewers, thanks for joining, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.